How can all Pokemon be man-made if Pokemon like Deoxys exist, which is literally an alien? Well, stay tuned for today's theory to find out. The comic Theorist is going to educate you on just how Deoxys is too man-made as well. And I think it will really blow your mind.
Hello, this is Professor Richard J. Wigglepecker from the Comic Theorist. I'd like to thank Protomario for the opportunity to share this video with you guys on his channel. If you like this theory, please check out our channel over at the Comic Theorist. The next episode will be exploring the origin of the Ultra Beast, and it ties heavily into the evidence found in this video. Deoxys Pokédex entry describes it as an alien virus that was hit by a laser and it transformed into what we now recognize as the DNA Pokémon. As we have explored in parts 1 and 2 of the ongoing Pokémon Theory, Pokémon are technically the results of a virus that was spread by introducing mu DNA into toxic waste and dosing it with X-ray radiation. Essentially, mu is the ancestor of all Pokemon, because all Pokemon species were created by the spread of this toxic mu DNA cocktail. And that's what separates Porygon from other robots in the Pokemon universe. Other robots lack this toxic mu DNA. Porygon, on the other hand, was built with it specifically in its coating. How could we be so sure? Well, it's a fact that Porygon was developed and designed by the Pokemon Lab on Cinnabar Island. The lab was founded by Mr. Fuji, the man who discovered Mew and began running the very experiments that created the toxic Mew DNA cocktail. So how did this DNA cocktail get into space? The answer is actually surprisingly simple. Porygon 2 was built to explore space. Being that Porygon 2 was deemed a failure by the very people that had created it, it was left behind in space. And they began developing Porygon Z. Unbeknownst to the very scientists that created it, Porygon 2 was just as alive as any other creature, and it intended to use its abilities to survive. Being that it lacked the ability to fly, as stated in its Pokédex entry, it needed a way to get back home, so it managed to hitch a ride on a meteorite that was heading back towards Earth. And when that meteorite was exposed to a particular laser, it became Deoxys. Overall, Deoxys and Porygon series, specifically Porygon 2, are characterized by their rubber-like malleability. Deoxys and the Porygon series are both polymorphs, meaning that they could take on different forms to fight, mostly keeping their color scheme. Speaking of color scheme, Deoxys and Porygon have a very similar color palette, just in different hues. The change in the hue color could be explained by the exposure to laser. The Deoxys DNA that is found on Birth Island cycled through many different hues of red before settling on orange. Speaking of Deoxys DNA, it is shaped as a triangle, more tellingly, a polygon. Porygon series are literally made up of nothing but polygons. Both Pokemon are also recognized for their high intelligence. One last detail. Deoxys shares some moves between its different forms, but have a completely different move pool. Porygon also shares some of these moves like Zap Cannon, Agility, Hyper Beam, and Recovery. Moves that are fairly rare for most Pokemon to actually learn naturally. With all this evidence, do you really think it's a coincidence that Porygon 2 was sent off into space and forgotten, and we somehow get our first official alien Pokemon immediately afterward? So, why is Deoxys a psychic Pokemon? Porygon's entire gimmick is that he could use conversion to become any typing that allows him to survive. Porygon 2, desperate to try and make it back home, turned himself into the one type of Pokemon that has been shown to have the deepest connections into space. the Psychic type Pokemon.